Good morning and welcome to today's IndustryWeek webcast, Optimizing Inventory Levels in the New Now, sponsored by Ultra and Trillium. My name is Peter Freddy, Technology Editor with IndustryWeek. Before we begin, let me explain how you can participate in today's presentation. First, if at any time you're having audio difficulties or slides are not advancing, simply press your F5 key to refresh your webcast console. If you're having any technical difficulties during today's session, please press the Help button to receive assistance in solving common issues. Our webinar technology allows you to resize the presentation by clicking the Maximize icon or by dragging the lower right corner to enlarge the window. We do welcome your questions during today's event. To submit your questions to a presenter, please use the Q&A window on the left side of your screen and press the Submit button. We'll answer as many questions as possible following the main presentation, but please feel free to send in your questions at any time and we will add them to the queue. Also, be aware we are recording today's session and it will be available on the IndustryWeek website within the next week for you to review. You will be notified by email when the archive is available. Also, on your console, the Ultra and Trillium logos are hot linked. If you would like to visit their website during the webcast, you can click on the logo and it will open a new window. This will not take you out of the webinar. I would now like to welcome today's speakers. Dave Leitner, Senior Consultant with Ultra Consultants, is a manufacturing and operations professional with a broad foundation of experience. Dave has worked for the past 30 years helping small and mid-market manufacturers leverage technology and automation to increase performance, productivity, throughput, quality, efficiency, revenues, and profitability. Mike Mahana, NetSuite Practice Leader at Trillium. Mike has spent his career leading companies through organizational change by adopting software as a service applications that fit their business goals. As the president of the Ohio NetSuite User Group, Mike focuses on existing NetSuite clients by creating a community where customers can share their experiences with one another and encourage new ways to better utilize NetSuite. Sherry Paul, Solutions Consultant Manager with RF Smart. Sherry manages RF Smart's team of solution consultants. She has worked with hundreds of NetSuite customers to select products for their needs. With 20-plus years of inventory management experience, Sherry's knowledge extends to the various ERP platforms RF Smart supports, including NetSuite. And with that, Dave, the floor is yours.
Awesome, Peter. Thanks so much for that great introduction. And I can just say it's a pleasure to be a part of the IndustryWeek webinar this morning, as well as partnering with Trillium and RF Smart on what I believe to be a really important topic, especially in light of the new now. So I've been given the awesome responsibility to kick off the webinar this morning. So let me just share a bit about the agenda. During the first part of the webinar, for about the first 10 minutes or so, I'd like to provide an introduction to Ultra Consultants and our value proposition, especially as it relates to business process improvement and business transformation. Then I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mike from Trillium. And Mike will be responsible for positioning how modern ERP solutions can really help manufacturers and distributors optimize current inventory levels and really leverage technology as it relates to maintaining adequate inventory and obviously maintaining position in the supply chain. Then we'll go ahead and turn it over to Sherry. And Cheryl will share how technology and especially hardware solutions and RF Smart can integrate with modern ERP solutions to really mobilize the inventory and inventory transactions that are so important for many of your businesses. And then we'll do a wrap-up at the end of the presentation. And as a means to enable all of you that are on the call today to participate throughout the course of the webinar, we'll have some polling questions, and then as Peter alluded, at the end we'll wrap up with answering some of the questions that may have come through the chat. For those of you on the call today that may be unfamiliar with Ultra Consultants, permit me just a few minutes to share a bit about our company and our history. 2020 marks Ultra's 26th year in operation. Our sole focus is assisting North American mid-market manufacturing and distribution companies better meet increased operational, market, and customer demands. We do that by providing business process assessment and improvement services, technology selection guidance, technology implementation, and project management services to our clients that wish to transform their operations. As 100% independent ERP agnostic consultants, our team become a real integral part of your organization. Simply put, what that means is that we strive to work shoulder to shoulder with you and your team to ensure that your processes are optimized and your technology selection and implementation projects deliver the greatest value for your investment. We really become your strategic partner to ensure that your investments, especially in technology solutions, really have significant payoff. In the past 26 years, our clients have, or our consultants have served as trusted advisors across a wide variety of companies and across many industry verticals. We have helped these and other organizations align their internal and external processes to industry best practices. Our expertise is helping companies navigate what can sometimes be very complex transformational journeys. Ultra helps companies manage their business transformation projects across really 4 key phases of that project life cycle. We kick off a typical project with business process assessment and improvement, which often then leads into technology selection, then technology implementation, and finally value realization. The consistent thread throughout all of these phases and services is risk, change, and project management. Because we are a vendor-independent consulting firm, that means 2 really important things to you. Number 1, we become your partner in guiding you through vendor education and selection. We help you get to know in depth the enterprise software solutions and vendors and implementation best practices that are best suited for your company. Secondly, we also partner with you in helping you to discover how to really maximize those improvements throughout your organization using those chosen technologies. With that, let's take a look at our first polling question. So if you were to look at your organization and evaluate your current process maturity level, and again, at this point, let's not even consider technology, just your business processes, where would you consider your firm in terms of process maturity? How advanced, especially, are your current inventory management processes? Would you say that right now they are not at all optimized? Your processes maybe are very manual or disconnected today. Or would you say that you're somewhat advanced in terms of those processes? Or are you pretty advanced? So at this point, if you could maybe take the next 10 or 15 seconds or so, choose a response that best articulates where you're at in terms of process maturity. and then go ahead and hit the submit button, and we'll take a look at the results. So let's take about 10 or 15 seconds to do that, and then we'll go ahead and proceed. Awesome. Let's take a look at our results. All right. Well, very good. Thank you again for participating in the first polling question. The results are pretty much what we would expect, right? And that's one of the reasons that we here at Ultra spend a lot of time with our clients really going through that process maturity and helping you to determine where are some of the gaps, where are some of the shortcomings in terms of your current business processes. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about that whole concept of process maturity. You know, one of the staggering statistics that I came across really as part of preparing for today's presentation is that there is a statistic that indicates 70% of all improvement opportunities within an organization are achieved when a company simply focuses on and fixes their broken business processes. Typically, when we engage with clients, we find that many of them, much like the polling question indicated, have processes that are either completely undefined or they are relying on tribal knowledge of their individuals, or maybe those processes are very loosely defined. We often see that even in cases where the processes are defined, a lot of times they aren't being followed, or they're difficult to execute because of the current technology solution that you may have in place. We have seen a lot of companies that have come to rely on manual workarounds or are doing a lot of non-value added work just to get things done. That is why even when clients come to us and want assistance in selecting technology solutions, we actually encourage them first to look at their current state of business process maturity. We spend a lot of time with them mapping out their current state and, more importantly, where they want their future state to be. And then, and only then, do we then begin the process of technology evaluation and selection. The reason is if we simply move right to technology selection, oftentimes we are implementing modern technology over really poor business process. That is why we really encourage everyone that is evaluating technology to first take a step back and really do a deep dive, spend some quality time really understanding where you envision your business to be across some of your key value streams. Only then does it really make sense to consider how technology might help you maximize and optimize some of those business processes. With that, let's go ahead and move into our next poll question, which is all about technology. So as you consider your primary technology platform today, your ERP solution, as it were, what we'd like to understand is how long your organization has been on its current solution. Again, let's take about 15 seconds or so, choose your response, and then hit the submit button again. So again, as you look at your organization and your current ERP solution, have you been on it less than a year, less than 5 years, between 5 and 10 years, or more than 10 years? So again, if you could, take about 10 or 15 seconds, and let's go ahead and hit the submit button with your response. All right, let's take a look at the responses. And again, pretty typical. Again, we have a few of you on the line, about 10% that have had your current solution less than a year. So again, maybe you're in the middle of implementation and really trying to maximize your use of the solution. Pretty commonly, we see a lot of customers kind of in that mid-range, having had a solution maybe in that 5 to 7 year range. And then, well, actually kind of surprisingly, a lot of you, over half of you, have actually had your current solution more than 10 years. One of the things that we see very typically is that the useful life or the typical lifespan of an ERP solution is usually between 7 and 10 years. And so maybe a lot of you that are on the call today that are kind of in that 10-plus year range are actually looking potentially at new solutions. So, again, exciting to be a part of this webinar. You'll get to see some great modern technology and how it might fit into your current situation. So with that, let's go ahead and wrap up really the first part of the presentation today. And really from my standpoint, I think the key takeaway is that, in order to leverage modern technology, I think you have to consider a couple of things first. Number one, you definitely have to have what I call the right people on the bus. In other words, you need to have the right people in place, in the right positions in your company, have really knowledgeable people that are really driving process improvement. Number two, I think you really need to have a good understanding and well-defined business processes. And in some cases where you've actually identified that you have some process issues, you need to maybe think about how do you solve those first before you simply implement technology over the top of that. So again, I would just encourage all of you to really consider where those gaps are, map out where you want to be in the future state in those key process areas, and then use that to really develop requirements as you start to evaluate potentially new solutions. I think once you do that, then that's really when you want to consider technology and analyze what, if any, changes you need to make in terms of technology, whether it's just simply upgrading your current solution or, again, maybe even considering new solutions and new supporting technology, as it were. I think when you proceed in that order and consider all of those things in that order, that's when you can really achieve business transformation and when your investment really starts to pay off. So with that, I'm really excited to turn the floor over at this point to Mike to illustrate and present a modern ERP solution, especially in light of how it can actually help you maximize your inventory management processes. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mike from Terillium.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate that. As Dave said, my name is Mike Mahanam with Terillium as the NetSuite practice leader. And for the next about 20 minutes, I'm going to share a little bit about Terillium and then show you NetSuite, one of our favorite platforms here. So a little bit about Terillium. We're going on 26 years of ERP consultants, and so we've been around for a long time. Big practice as far as the J.D. Edwards, but the NetSuite practice is growing like crazy, and so we're really excited about that. A little bit about who does the work for us. We've got more than 170 full-time consultants. They are all U.S.-based and really spread out through the United States. Terillium's here based in Cincinnati, but we're all throughout the U.S. to support our customers. We are a Oracle partner, a pure Oracle partner, so we don't sell any competing products. Like I said, we started off with J.D. Edwards and also serve the cloud and NetSuite practices. We've got quite a few different awards over those 26 years. Customers were really happy with what we've done, and Oracle's been pretty happy with us and achieved, like I said, about 16 different awards as an Oracle partner. And then let's not forget about our clients. We've got over 700 clients throughout the U.S. Who really focus on Terillium as their trusted advisor, not only for their implementation of their ERP, but the ongoing maintenance and development of it. And, like David indicated, the business processes that we put in during the implementation and don't remain static. So if those companies that continue to grow, they're looking for that trusted partner, and Terillium is that for more than 700 clients. Who are we serving? We've got quite a few different customers across multiple verticals, and we've got a list of them there. Some of them are young startup companies, and all the way up to multi-billion a year in revenue industry. So great companies to serve. It's definitely been fun for us to see those companies go from those startups to grow to the larger sizes. And so what are we going to focus on today? We know NetSuite. We're going to show you the NetSuite solution. We think it's a very modern platform, and so we're going to tell you a little bit about that. But what about NetSuite? They're an Oracle partner, or I'm sorry, an Oracle application. They've got over 8,000 employees globally. NetSuite itself is probably the largest largest ERP solution. They've got 21,000 customers worldwide, and just even within the last 12 months, they've got 4,800 new logos, so new companies that are signing on with NetSuite. So, it's a pure SaaS-based solution. It was born in the cloud and has continued to develop in the cloud, so it definitely is a unique aspect of the solution itself. I mentioned, the 21,000 plus customers across a variety of verticals. So hopefully you're seeing your vertical there. We're proud to represent all of those and be involved in really those different verticals. The wholesale distribution and manufacturing are probably the largest there, but we do see quite a bit across the software, retail, and then the services division. So again, just really diverse product portfolio that NetSuite's been involved in. What about the back end? So let's take a look at NetSuite as a solution. Like I said, it was born in the cloud, completely SaaS-based. It is a single data source. There are not multiple databases connected to each other. It does offer not only the ERP financials, which is really where it began, but it offers CRM as well as e-commerce, shipping, and distribution. I think what's great is it gives you an entire customer life cycle. So if I can see the customer from a prospect to a lead, and when they become a customer, and then when we have orders, I can see all of that in a single data source. Not only does that streamline some of the processes, but it also gives you a full insight into it in a single data source. It does have multi-currency, so if you have multiple operations and serve different currencies, you can handle that, as well as multi-language, so it can reach a variety of customers. Multi-subsidiary is a big one. So obviously, if we're reaching out internationally, or even just within the U.S. and Canada, it'll handle multiple subsidiaries, and then also, some of the multi-country tax compliance. So it's a well-rounded solution that, again, kind of serves a variety of markets for them. Obviously, we generate data in the ERP, and then we need to consume it. And so NetSuite has over 300 BI components available. It is a browser-based solution, and so that's probably the most common form that people interact with it. But it is touch-enabled, so if you have an iPad, you can navigate through that, and then it has a mobile app. So all different ways to consume data. No matter where you are, you have the ability to connect with NetSuite. We are a official NetSuite partner. Like I said, we're a pure NetSuite player. We do a variety of services, or provide a variety of services to our customers. We evaluate the existing clients that are looking at, how do they improve their existing solution. And then we also sell new license or new software. We implement it, and then we also offer ongoing services. So it's a full breadth of options for anyone that is looking at or is currently using NetSuite. And so we're pretty proud about that and excited to show you a little bit more about it. All right, so let me jump into NetSuite and show you guys a little bit. So share my screen here. Okay. That is sharing there. All right, so we're now looking at the NetSuite instance here. And we're logged in to the instance. You can see up here in the top right, I'm logged in as Cameron Murdoch, who is a CFO. So again, I'm accessing it from a browser, but same thing with the mobile devices. But when you log in, you'll log in within a specific role, and that role is assigned to each individual, and that controls what areas they can see and what data they can consume. And so as I navigate through here, a couple different things that I want to point out. You'll see up here in this search bar, to me, this is the Google of NetSuite. So if I'm looking for a specific record or a specific payment or activity, I can come in here, and as I type, NetSuite will go in and start looking for all the records. It could be invoices, it could be bill payments, and you can see as I type, just it popped up a variety of things here. And so it's a very powerful tool to kind of jump to what you're looking for. You also have a variety of other tools that are really helpful. And so if I come over here, I can see a variety of recent records. So right now, I refreshed my cookies in this environment, so there's nothing in there right now, but I'll show you that in another role, some of the features that you can see with the recent records. We do have also the favorites. So if you're someone that jumps around and wants to look at invoices and then looks at sales orders or customer records, and you want to go back to that specific customer, you can do that with your recent records here. I'm starting with the end in mind. I started off with the CFO role, and one of the things obviously they're going to focus on is our financial statements. And so I want to show you some of the unique aspects about the capabilities within NetSuite. So here we're looking at an income statement, pretty standard looking income statement, but with the capabilities here, I can change how this looks. So right now we're looking at a total of all the income from January of 2020 to August of 2020, and we're looking at a specific subsidiary. So I mentioned about the subsidiaries, and we're looking at the U.S. subsidiary. I can combine multiple subsidiaries and do a consolidated look at, but I'm looking at just the U.S. operations right now. And let's say that I wanted to see, well, how am I doing, from month to month? So I take this one report, and I don't have to go anywhere else. I just simply change this, and I do it by accounting period. I come over here and click refresh. And now the system will display my income statement by accounting period. So I can see month over month how we did in revenue. And if I look at the numbers, we had a nice progression as we continue along, but then we had a big jump in June. And you'll see as I hover over that, I can drill down into that record and see what those actual transactions are that were impacted that revenue for June. Another way that you could use this report here is I can also choose by other dimensions. And so I can say, you know what, I want to see how we did by department. So departments might be sales, operations, and so if I choose that option, when I click refresh, it still takes the same report, but now shows me all of the information by department. So I've got administration, engineering, operations, and production. And so I've just shown you 3 different what would be considered unique reports in your existing or in a legacy system, and how they could easily be displayed. And it really allows me as a CFO to kind of analyze the business and ask questions that maybe I couldn't ask before, or ask questions that it took hours or days to kind of consume the information. So it's a very powerful tool. If I come back to, let me close this. If I come back to the dashboard, a couple different things, more ways to consume data. There are a variety of portlets. One of them is this reminders portlet. And so this is, hey, Mike, what are the things that you need to focus on today to do your job? And as a CFO, I may have expense reports to approve. As a warehouse person, I might have orders to receive or orders to ship. And so these are set up for roles, and it kind of says, this is what you should be focusing on. But focusing on the BI piece, one of the things that NetSuite puts in their portlets is this KPI portlet. And it's a very powerful tool because by default, NetSuite has produced these KPIs and they're available to me, but I can add to them that, for things that I want to focus on in my specific role. But again, these are all standard within NetSuite. And when I look at this, I originally said, I want to look at, revenue period over period, or payables today versus the same day last month. And so there are, let's see, 3, 6, probably 10 different KPIs that we're looking at in a variety of reports. What NetSuite has provided, though, is a way to analyze it and say, I want to look at things just a little bit differently. And so in my scenario, I want to come in here and say, I want to actually look at this quarter over quarter. So this quarter versus last quarter. When I click done, it goes through all the portlets and now has a quarterly view of what the records are here. And so now I've taken 10 KPIs and I've made 20, because now I'm looking at, instead of a month over month, I'm looking at this fiscal quarter versus last fiscal quarter. And just like we saw on the income statement, I have the ability to drill down into each one of these data points. I can drill in to see what that 2.6 million is. And once I'm done with this, I can come right back up and say, I want to go back to my regular view. And I just click the portlet date settings, and it goes back to the view that we had before. Okay. So again, very powerful BI tool for us to consume data. Let me transition. Kind of the focus of the is inventory, and so I'm actually going to change roles here, and I'm going to go in as a purchasing manager. And so normally, you wouldn't have the CFO role and a purchasing manager, but for the demo today, I do. And so this is Michelle Wright. Michelle is a purchasing manager, and this is the same dashboard functionality that we saw in the CFO, but it's specific to her as a purchasing manager. And again, NetSuite has created all of these dashboards, and these are available day one. You don't have to create these. They're available day one when you start using NetSuite. Obviously, you'll have to have data for it to be valuable, but it is available day one. And going back, looking at the reminders, I can see that I've got purchase orders to approve, assemblies to order, and then items to order. And so these are all things that are very powerful ways to let me know how well I'm performing the activities that I need to do to keep the operations running. Let's take a look. Actually, let me show you one more thing here. So each one of these menu options has their own dashboard. So right now, this is Michelle's home dashboard when she logs in. But if I go to the inventory, I am now looking at a dashboard for inventory. And so all the inventory data that I have access to is now available for me to consume. And so if I have, graphs like this one that shows top 15 inventory sales. Well, what was my biggest one? Oh, it was the Brocade extension switch. And so I can drill down into that and see the actual sales this month to date for that Brocade switch. And so it's, again, a very powerful way as a jumping point to consume data within NetSuite. You get a variety of other reports, and as you move along, you can kind of see the information and allows you to consume that. All of this can be configured, so if I said, you know what, I want to actually move this up, this is more important to me, I can move things around. And so now the inventory links are sitting on top. So it makes it very easy for people to consume data in the ways that they're most comfortable with and that makes the most sense to them. I'm going to go ahead and click on the home dashboard. So it takes me back to where I started off when I first logged into NetSuite. And I want to talk about demand planning. So within NetSuite, on all of our items, we can say, hey, here's the order point or here's the min-max. And those are manual calculations. But within NetSuite, once you get enough activity in there, you can have it start to recommend different methods or you recommend quantities that you should maintain. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So over here in the demand planning, I can calculate the item demand. And so let's take a look at that. So I'm going to click on this here. And NetSuite is allowing me to say, you know what, for all of these items that are not manually calculating what the order point, order quantity, or the min-max should be, for those ones that you said, let's use automation, it's going to display those items, and it will allow us to assign a specific method to it. So we're looking at the U.S. subsidiary, and I would say, you know what, I'm going to look at the Las Vegas location. It will only show me the inventory items that are associated at that location for that subsidiary. And then NetSuite provides us 4 different ways to assign the projection method. So linear regression basically says, all right, what is the kind of straightest line of growing demand that we would have? And so it uses the linear progression. Moving average says, okay, let's take whatever time frame that you tell me to go back and look, average that out, and that's what we should be using for our demand. Sales forecast. So if you have amazing salespeople and amazing sales pipeline that gets managed, you can definitely use a sales forecast. And what that does is it says, all right, tell me what quotes are out there and what opportunities are out there for upcoming sales, and use that as part of the demand. And so there's another way to do that. And then the final one that they have is seasonal average. And so what NetSuite does with this one is it tries to look at it and says, okay, there's going to be a spike somewhere in here, and it analyzes that. So those are the 4 methods that you can select. And for each item, you would select that specific method. And so one item only gets one projection method. The projection interval, so we can either choose monthly or weekly. So if I'm going to purchase, it's going to tell me, all right, on a weekly basis, you need this many. On a monthly basis, you need this many. And so you would define that as well. And then the projection duration. How far in advance do you want us to project? 3 months, 6 months? So you can see what that demand looks like within that time frame. And then one of the final things that you have here is analysis. How far back do I want to go? So I would recommend if you guys started day 1 that you at least have 3 months of sales history to have the analysis. But 6 months is probably a better, you'll get more accurate. And these are recommendations. Here, I see what you're recommending, NetSuite, but I'm going to choose a little bit different quantity. So they are just recommendations, but you can, use that automation to purchase. So it'll go back and look at it. NetSuite also acknowledged that sometimes when I bring a new item on, I may have a similar item that has that history, and so they give you this alternate source item. So I sell item A, item B I'm just bringing on, but it's going to behave probably a lot like item A. So use that history from a recommendation perspective to generate your actual recommendation. So this is the kind of step 1, which is calculating the item demand. From that, we would actually create an item demand plan. And let's come over here and take a look at Here I'm kind of showing you the recent records here, and so I've got an item that has this specific demand plan. So let's take a look at that. And so for this item demand plan that was generated, NetSuite's going in there, and you can see here I've specified that this was a seasonal average item, and from that recommendation for the periods that are coming up, it's basically saying, yep, we are calculating these values. So this is kind of what we're estimating is going to be the monthly calculated demand based upon the seasonal average for this particular item. Okay, and so again, you can kind of look at that. You can modify it as needed, but again, it's you know, the recommendation there. So I've got the item demand. Now, once I do that, then ultimately it's going to say, all right, now what's my supply? What do I need to buy for this particular item? And so let's take a look at a item supply plan. So we're going to go to the same thing. So let's go to demand plans and item supply plans. And I want to take a look at this item here, this BTS laptop assembly. So this is, NetSuite has come in and said, I think that, you know, go back, choose this other one here. I think your demand or your supply should be these quantities. So on a regular basis, here are the quantities that we recommend that you purchase. In this case, this is actually an item that I manufacture, and so it's recommending that I create a work order for these quantities in each of these specific weeks. So a nice little feature for that to demonstrate the work order capabilities. If I go back and look at the list, here's this item here. Sorry to kind of jump around on you. This is that item that we were looking at before. So for this item, the supply plan for the specified periods, as we look at this, we've got a little bit, little quantities, and there's that seasonal demand for us right at the end of the year through February, and then it just drops off again, and then has a kind of a steady rate there. And so this is the supply plan for that, and you look at that and you say, yep, I think that makes sense. And then once you create those purchase orders, it will tell you that. And so from here, if I go up to here, I can actually tell the system, go ahead and order these items, and it will allow us to generate that supply plan for us. So, okay. So those are the demand, which we're calculating the item demand, seeing the demand plan, and then evaluating the supply plan for that. So a nice little feature there. And then, looking back on, okay, I had those items that I needed to make. So if I come over here to manufacturing, I can mass create these work orders. And so when I do that, the system's going to come in and say, all right, for the inventory quantities you need to build these particular items. And here are the quantities that we recommend based upon that demand that we've seen. And so you can see NetSuite's going through, and I can come in and say, well, I know that something else is coming up, and we actually need 20 of those. And so you get the flexibility to still have that, the ability to adjust it as necessary, or if there's some activity coming up, you can definitely do that. So, all right. So those are kind of the different ways using NetSuite's automated demand plan and supply plan ways that you can automate that. So those are the things that I specifically wanted to cover with you guys. And so I want to, at this point, go ahead and turn it over to Sherry, who can show us a little bit more about ways that RF Smart can help you better utilize some of the inventory features within NetSuite. So I'll turn that over to Sherry.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining our webinar this afternoon. My name is Sherry Paul, and the topic that I'm going to discuss is how to get the data into the ERP or into NetSuite from the day-to-day worker that might be either manufacturing or working on distributing your products. So, the information of an ERP, as you probably know, requires that information be fed into the ERP in order to get the fantastic reporting that NetSuite has. All the transactions can be done inside of NetSuite as far as inventory movements and et cetera, but it can also be done with mobile data collection. Now, maybe many of you have mobile data collection today, and when you change ERPs, you will just naturally want to have mobile data collection. Most people will not get rid of it once they've incorporated it. Or maybe you're just going to take your journey to mobile data collection and actually enabling those workers that are out in your plant to input the data easily with barcoding. So that's basically the topic for today. Now, the reason that companies incorporate mobile inventory management, and by this I mean, and I'm going to show a demonstration, but walking around with a handheld device that would have a barcode scanner on it or an RFID chip that could capture data as material is being moved around. We're going to concentrate on some manufacturing functions, but really mobile data collection, RF Smart, we have capability from the time material comes in the door through every move through the manufacturing facility, consumption to a work order, and then even pick, pack, ship out the door. So full-on traceability from the time material comes in until it goes out to your customer. And all of this being done with quick scans of barcodes, labels that get placed on goods as they come in. As you enable the workers that are actually touching the material or at the point of use, you will find that your supply chain visibility will increase dramatically. So anything you're looking at in NetSuite with regard to demand planning, you probably experience that if your inventory is not accurate, your planning engines are not accurate, and then everyone starts padding the numbers because they don't trust the inventory. Once you incorporate mobile data collection and you have a discipline on the floor to scan every movement of material, that visibility and accuracy is going to skyrocket. Worker productivity as well. So without having to shuffle paper, without having to go to a large screen and input into the ERP, you're saving those workers time or manually writing down what they're doing and then handing it in or going to the ERP. You're giving them a lot of that time back, so you'll experience worker productivity. Inventory accuracy will improve greatly with the use of barcodes and the discipline to scan anything that moves. And of course, if you know that if your inventory is accurate, your workers are productive, and you're scanning at that final shipment to verify what you ship is what the customer indeed ordered, you're going to improve your shipping accuracy along with your customer satisfaction and even potentially save money on RMAs that might occur when you ship the wrong product out. What's the cost of an order going out, the cost of an order going out the door that's incorrect? You can improve and reduce some of those costs. In the meantime, you're going to be able to on the right side where your inventory levels and costs are going to decrease. As I was talking about, your customer satisfaction is going to increase because you're going to have less lost orders, etc. If you take an overview look at a manufacturing operation, you can see where it is strategic to use mobile data collection and barcode scanning. So right from the beginning at the upper left there at receiving, if you can, at that point in time, use mobile data collection to quickly input the incoming material from the purchase order and optionally generate labels, you can be assured that everything will have a label on it and will be scannable through the rest of the process. You then have putaways. If you look at the forklift trucks that might be putting product away, you want to know if someone goes into NetSuite to find that product or needs to pick that product or needs to use that product, they'll know immediately whether it's on that receiving dock or if it's indeed in its raw material location or bin. As product is being built, so the people in the middle that are working on some assembly lines, et cetera, it's important to be able to track the materials that are being used, the inventory being used for manufacturing, as well as potentially tracking the labor hours being used so you can get your actual cost of that manufacturing or production. And then from a fulfillment standpoint of actually the product going out the door, RF Smart offers a variety of pick, pack, ship business processes that can help streamline that for you as well. And what we're going to concentrate, as I said, is on the manufacturing. So just a quick look here before I get into the demonstration. Again, we're going to concentrate on the transactions that are most visible for manufacturers, and that would be work order issue, being able to issue components to a work order and make it very easy for that user to do that, to verify every item is the correct item, to verify they're indeed pulling it from the correct bin or location, so that when it eventually gets updated, the data has been vetted and is valid. Also mobilizing work order reporting. So we have the ability to do work order reporting against work orders and operations on a routing by employee. And this will help employees to quickly capture their actual cost without having to write up timesheets, go back and fill in the time they think they spent on something. This is going to be an easy scan on, an easy scan off, and all that's going to be tracked in NetSuite, so you'll be able to report your actual times and your labor variances very easily. And I'm going to show you this as well. All right, a little bit about this, and then I'll get into the actual demonstration. So I mentioned at the beginning that it's important to potentially use mobile data collection or RF Smart as product comes in the door. One of the things that is important about that is to make sure everything has a barcode on it. Now, RF Smart can read barcodes and translate from, let's say, a UPC code or a vendor part number, a manufacturer part number. We have various cross-references that you can use. So the barcode doesn't necessarily need to be your internal number, but it will be very important with mobile data collection to have a barcode and to be able to scan those barcodes. That's how you're going to save the time. That's how you're going to get the validation. So with RF Smart, we can print various labels at various times in the process. We have some templates, but you can also create your own labels, and you can have labels specific to printers that they're printing on. You could have specific customer labels or item labels, maybe based on an item group. So there are ways to have very robust printing capability. That's in bringing that to conclusion. When you're doing mobile data collection, it's as important to consider the access points that you're going to be using to create the wireless infrastructure as it is to select software that is very user-friendly and configurable, and to print the labels. All of this has to be considered when you're looking at a mobile data collection solution. Okay, at this time, I am going to do a demonstration. Oops, go back one. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now, and we'll go into a demonstration. Please hold for a minute. Okay. Just holding for my screen to share here. Okay, there we got it. Okay, so now what you're seeing is the actual product of RF Smart. Is anybody, okay, there we go. All right, so this is NetSuite and RF Smart. So what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to concentrate. I only have like a 15-minute time slot here, and I want to make sure that we concentrate on manufacturing. But just to let you know what I'm showing here, off to the left is NetSuite. Everything that was talked about previously being inside of NetSuite, you were able to look at all those great navigation features as well as a little bit about planning. But just know that NetSuite has everything you need to bring raw materials in, process those raw materials, manufacture, cycle count them, and pick, pack, ship them out the door. It's a great ERP for that, and the navigation just even makes it better. So what we're going to concentrate on here is work orders. Notice off to the right, this is the RF Smart screen. I did keep everything on here for you just so you could get a quick look at the breadth of the product offering, but we will be concentrating down here at the work order transactions. So off to the left is a work order, a production order. You may call them different things, but this is basically what is going to be issued to the floor to build your product. You may have a traveler today that you put together, and maybe it has the bill of material in it, maybe it has the routing on a piece of paper. All that paper, some of that paper can start disappearing when you start using mobile data collection because it's going to be visible right on the device. So not only is it validity, but you're also saving paper, and in today's world where I know many of our customers are trying to reduce the step of handling paper and touching paper by many people. You'll see how you can actually achieve paperless activity by using RF Smart. So the first thing I'm going to do on a work order, there's pretty much three things, right? I am going from the execution stage. So I'm really talking execution stage. So the first thing, I need to issue components to a work order. I'm going to tell it what I'm using. Now, there is an option to backflush, if you're familiar with that term. It basically means that I'm going to have a bill of material that has the components and the quantity I use to build one of my end item. When I'm backflushing, I simply say, if I say the quantity used is 1, backflush 1, and you give it a bin number on which it's going to backflush. So it just means I don't deliberately issue. Now that's good for some, but other customers, maybe they're high-cost items, maybe they're serialized or lot controlled, and you want to physically, discreetly issue them. Notice here that I have a 1 showing up. That's actually giving this user a clue. More than a clue, it's actually giving them a notice that there are issues ready to be done. So that's nice. You can see on many of these that have documents behind it, it lights up when there's work to do. Now, normally, if I am a worker that's only doing these manufacturing transactions, I would only have maybe these 3, this one and this one and this one on my menu. So keep that in mind. I just have left the menu so you can kind of get an idea of everything that RF Smart could do. So let's first start with issuing the components. So you can see here that if you looked off to the left, I have nothing used yet in NetSuite. All I've done is created this order, and it's released and ready to be worked on. So the first thing is somebody has to issue the components. So I'm going to go in here, and I can scan my work order number, and it noticed the visibility that this user is getting. They don't need to pull up their traveler in the paper that's in there with the the pick list for the work order, it is on their screen. So that's what I mean by reducing the amount of paper. It really will not be necessary. Once they know the purchase or the work order number, it's going to pop up and tell them exactly what they need to go get and where to go get it from. So here, I'm going to go ahead and with RF Smart and good mobile data collection solutions, you want to provide the user many different ways to solve the problem. These are going to be remote, I shouldn't say remote, but they're going to be users that aren't used to being in a NetSuite screen. And the only thing they're going to use to communicate to the system is a handheld device. RF Smart's goal is to make sure that we give them as much assistance as possible so that they never really have to go and look anything up or call a supervisor. So why I bring this up is it's perfectly valid to type in an item and use your keypad. Now, if you have a virtual keypad, it's going to pop up here. By the way, there's scanners here, that you would actually engage with the scanners up here. You engage them with these buttons. So the idea would be I'm going to scan, and I'm actually using a scanner. I'm going to scan my first part number and say, okay, I'm getting that part number. So now it shows me that it's a cap. You can pull images from NetSuite. NetSuite has great capability of displaying images, and RF Smart also brings that image over. Now, this can be very helpful if your part numbers look very much the same, or if you need extra assistance. So this worker, when they pick this black marker, they can say, yep, that looks like that black marker. Now, it is suggesting bin C801. What if I get there and I can't find it? Well, I don't really want to stop this user in their tracks. I want them to be able to see alternate bins and be able to go pick it from somewhere else. Now, in this case, I don't have any alternate bins, but we certainly don't want to just stop this user in their tracks. We want them to be able to make some decisions. So here, we're going to do that, and then I'm going to go ahead. Notice the calculator button. This will be found on every screen within RF Smart. You can imagine how handy this is. If you have, 5 boxes of 12 or something like that, you can pull that up, do the math, and it'll fill it right in there for them. I'm going to go ahead and bring 5 of these. Now I'm going to go ahead and scan my next part number, B300. And I'll go ahead and go to the bin and pull it right from that bin, and I'll pull 5 of them. Now let me grab my last part number and put it in the bin. Oh, notice it said invalid bin. That's exactly the response that a user will get if they scan something that is not valid. So they get this feedback right away. They know what the problem is, and oops, I didn't scan that correct barcode, and I move on. So you can see we're going to make it very easy for that worker to perform. Even if they get an error, we're going to help them through it. This is my black tip here, actually at the end of this tool. So I wanted to show a picture of the black tip. So now notice it was red when we came in. It's green now. So that tells the worker we're done. If they had partially picked, it would be yellow. Now they know I'm all done with this. I picked everything complete. I could go in and change it at this point if I wanted to, but I'm going to submit it. So at this point when I submit it, this is a native NetSuite app, so it is updating NetSuite right away and basically using the standard NetSuite code, if you will, to do that update. So if you did this inside of NetSuite, you would have the same results as you're going to get with RF Smart. Now what that provides then is the ability to, again, have somebody that might be far away from a screen to be able to capture data and have it update the ERP in real time. So now if I look here and do an update, I'm just refreshing this screen, if you will. Now notice I have used 5 in the build. So it is updated, and I could actually drill down and see exactly what I had issued. Again, if you're using serial number or lot number, you could drill down and see the exact serial or lots that had been built. All right, now I'm going to start working on this now that I have my components by me. But I need to log in so I can record my direct labor into the order. Now, one thing is every transaction that I'm doing with RF Smart is leaving a digital footprint, if you would, or thumbprint, and we are able to see who's doing what from an RF Smart transaction. So work order reporting is direct labor. That's different. I want to report directly on a work order. But I can also get metrics like who's picking the most, who did the most transactions, who's doing all the putaways. All that is in the data and can be mined for BI reporting. All right, so now I'm going to report onto my order. Now I can report onto more than one order. So that's why it's giving me this list. I could report on to more than one order. I'm just going to be done there. And now I'm going to go and assemble my black marker. So I have to, I'm going to start on the assembly and that operation. So I'm putting the cap on, I'm putting the wick inside the body, and I'm done with that now. So now when I come in, it knows which orders I'm on, and it automatically pulls it up. I only had one, so it only pulled up one. And it says, did you complete anything? So notice the easy button. I can say, yep, I completed all. Or I can do partial completions. Or I could just stop it. You do have an option that you could set that workers couldn't enter quantities. They would only be entering time. That's an option, and same with scrap. Do you want them to be able to enter scrap or not? These are some parameters that can be set. So I'm going to go ahead and finish one of these with the time that I've spent. So then what that does is it now brings in operation information. So these are manufacturing orders that have routings with them. So you're getting both the material and the labor cost. And if I look down here, you can see that I have my durations of time where I've logged in and out here. This is looking at the actual, there's my completed quantity, and then there's, my run rate. So that's what's being updated there. So finally, now you do have the ability to complete from the last operation if you're doing the work order reporting. You could complete it to finish good on the last operation, or you can come in if you're not using operations, or you want to do it this way and just complete right from the last operation. Just complete the order. So I'm going to go ahead, and this is build. I'm building one of these, and I'm scrapping 0. So before, when I was doing the work order reporting, that was an employee saying, I'm doing assembly, and another employee saying, I'm putting the decal on. So that was labor reporting. This is just, I'm done. I'm gonna make one of these, and I'm gonna print a label, and I want either back flushing at this point, so consume what's on the bill, or I've already issued what's on the bill. And there we go. Now it's complete. So if I do another refresh here, we'll see that now we've built one. All right, so just to recap, this was really, there's many transactions all the way from PO receiving to moving inventory around in bins or locations, to cycle counting, all license plate functionality that can be done, and then we have production capability with our work orders, labor reporting, and then we have full pick, pack, ship capability as well. All right, well, that concludes my section, and now I'll hand it over to Dave.
All right, Sherry, thanks so much and Mike as well for that great overview of both NetSuite and RF Smart. It never ceases to amaze me, quite honestly, how systems and technology continue to evolve and the importance of predictive and proactive information to really make smart business decisions. we are running out of time. Actually, technically, we have already run out of time. I just want to really extend our thank you on behalf of all of us that hosted the webinar today, to you, the participants. We really appreciate your sharing where you are on your business transformation journey and spending time with us today. I think there is, in essence, a couple of takeaways. Number one, the companies that are really dealing with the realities of the new now have the right people in place. They've attracted the right individuals. They've retained the right individuals. They have them in the right positions in the company where those individuals are really making a difference. I think those businesses have taken time to, especially in light of all of these things that have happened related to COVID and the new now, they've really taken time to analyze their business processes. They've attempted to drive out waste whenever possible, and they've tried to ensure that all of their activities are as value-added as possible. And finally, they really looked at technology and systems like NetSuite and RF Smart as really key differentiators. So with that, we would just like to go ahead and close out the presentation by giving you the opportunity, if you would like additional information from any or all of us, to go ahead and make that selection at this point. This is a multi-select, so if you would like information from, again, any or all of us, feel free to do that. We do realize that we do have questions that came up in the Q&A panel. We will reach out to those of you that submitted those questions individually and definitely respond to you. So again, on behalf of Ultra, Terillium, and RF Smart, thanks so much for participating today. With that, I will turn it back to Peter from NetSuite, or excuse me, from IndustryWeek.
Thanks, Dave. As mentioned, we're out of time. I would like to thank all of our speakers, Dave, Mike, and Sherry, as well as our sponsors, Ultra and Terillium, for making today possible. And on behalf of IndustryWeek, have a productive remainder of the day.